All my videos are basically around having a happy life. I mean, to me, that seems to be the most important thing to do, have a happy life. What else? What's the other? There's more to it, okay. Depending on your philosophical viewpoint, of course, there's more. But having a happy life often means just doing things good for other people. It means a whole host of other things, living quietly and reasonably and being fair and honourable and so on. Those things are given. But you might think, well, why would you associate going to work with having a happy life? Particularly if you're retired or you're going to be retired at some stage in the future, and the idea of having to go off to work every day is a pretty miserable sort of prospect. I agree. But when I looked up work in the dictionary, expecting to find half a dozen definitions of the word work, I found 47 of them. 47 variations on the word work, and they included a place where you go as you work and so on. Nonetheless, I'm not talking here about the work where you go off and to do some horrible stuff that you don't particularly want to do to get money to do the things that you want to do. I'm not talking about that kind of work. Yesterday, a friend of mine came over for coffee. Now, Walt's a good mate of mine, has been now for many years, and we spent a lot of the time talking about his yacht. Now, he built a yacht about 30 years ago. He and his partner travelled all around the Pacific and half the world, up through Asia, lots of different places. And a couple of years ago, he took it out of the water, got a big truck and a crane and that sort of thing and brought it home. It's a 30-foot something steel yacht, so it's a significant piece of equipment. And he brought it home to his big shed, enormous shed that he's got, and he's been working on doing a refurbishment, bringing up to scratch all those little things that over the years he's realised in his first build weren't quite what he wanted. That was okay until about a year ago. He was going all right, and then he had a fire when he was welding inside, set off something. Anyway, that sort of damaged his lungs and set him back a few months, and there's a whole host of work, stuff that had to be done, there's that word work again, a whole heap of stuff that had to be done in order to bring it up to where he wanted it to be. Now, he's still going on it, and he'll still be on it probably for another few months yet, 6 months or 3 months or 4 months, something like that. And when he'll finally get it fairly well finished, he can put it back in the water, and then he's got plans to go off and do it. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story, because after we talked about that, we came out to the shed on his way out to his vehicle, and we stopped and had a look at this latest project, or this project that I'm on at the moment, the one I'm standing in front of. This project is a similar sort of thing. I built this slide-on camper that goes on my little truck. I built this a couple of years ago, and I didn't like the layout. It wasn't done properly. When we come back from that first holiday, I stripped it all out, redesigned all the interior, different layout, put the fridge on a different wall, everything. Changed the bathroom, the whole lot. Then after that, there was iteration number 3. That was number 2, I suppose, number 1, 2. Iteration number 3, there were some more changes. Iteration number 4, I changed the roof line. Iteration 5 is the one that we're on each time going away for a trip. And iteration 5 I'm on at the moment, where I'm changing the roof line once again, but also doing a hell of a lot of other work. We put a veranda on it, slide out veranda. We've got new plumbing, new tanks, the whole bit. Anyway, the point of the story is, both of these projects are missions. These are missions. And I think it's critically important, particularly for men, and perhaps to some extent with women as well, to have a mission, some place where you've got to go, something that you're supposed to be doing, some sort of project that's in your mind. And when you think about it, in evolutionary terms, we are programmed that way. We have an instinct to do it. In this case, think of women as being focused on making sure that the children are safe and making sure that they can gather enough food and they've got somewhere to sleep and all the rest of it. The man is fixated on going out and getting something to eat and not getting eaten in the process. These instincts take thousands and thousands and thousands of generations to even change slightly. So those instincts of your ancestors are still strong in you today. Now, without a mission, you are only, well, there's something lacking in your life when you don't have a mission. I'm saying in all seriousness. Now, we think of when you retire, and it's so common, I'm going to go and play golf, I'm going to do some woodworking, I'm going to do some other hobby, I'm going to get a caravan, we're going to travel around the country, whatever it is. There's a whole host of these things. All of them are directed in your head, or not in your head, but all of these things are directed at pleasure. I'm going to do something that's going to be a lot of fun because I've spent all this time doing this drudgy work that I didn't particularly want to do to make a living so I could do the things I want to do. Unfortunately, as I cover quite extensively in my book, pleasure and happiness are cousins, but they're not the same thing, by a long chalk. By a long chalk. So when I'm talking about you must work, what I'm suggesting to you is that you need to have a project that is like work, where you used to drudge. However, this work is work that you love doing. Now, it's got to be a project though. It can't be just saying, oh, I think I like doing woodwork, so I'll just go and do that. No. That's not a project. That's not a project. That's pleasure. You might as well go into an ice cream shop or sit in the lounge and watch TV. You're just doing something for pleasure. Happiness comes from achieving goals. You have to have a project that's big project. It needs to have clearly defined steps. It has to have a time imperative. Now, like Walt has to have this job completed by the end of the year. That's his target. Anyway, he's got all his steps laid out in a great long list and he ticks them off. And as you tick things off your list, you get a bit of a boost as well, which adds to your happiness. Got nothing to do with pleasure. It just adds to your happiness. Well, every time you tick off something along those steps. So that's why it's important that it's a big list and there's steps along the way, and it's got a time limit to where you have to be. You're like it was in your ancestors' time. You've got to get this done by this time, otherwise you go hungry or whatever it is, but you've got this time imperative. It must be clearly defined, as it was with your ancestors. Getting something to eat is a very clearly defined goal, and so it has to be very clearly defined. In my case here, my project, not that you want to hear about this particularly, but as you can see, it's a work in progress. It's a big project. It's taking me this particular iteration of doing this up. It'll fit on my small truck that's just over here. It's just out of shot, you can't see. But this fits on my small truck. It's a 6-month project to completely something on the roof, tree dropping stuff. It's a big project and it's got all these steps, but it's clearly defined in terms of what it is I'm trying to achieve. I use a spreadsheet, but that's because it happens to suit my personality and what I know. I know how to use a spreadsheet. So that works for me. And that touches upon the other thing that's very important with your project. Forget about just these, it's a project and you must be able to read it. In Walt's case, it's a big long list. You can tick all the things off. In my case, it's a spreadsheet all laid out in a timeline. Timeline, clearly defined, big project, lots of steps. Now, if you got that in your mind, that's what you're aiming for, something like that you enjoy doing. It's got to be something that you don't enjoy. It's not going to be something that's just pleasure, which is going playing golf, I'm going to go fishing, I'm going to play bowls. Those things aren't projects. I'm going to get my handicap down to whatever. That's not a project. A project is something entirely different. You get the picture, I'm sure. Now, if you've got one of these projects, it'll be the first thing you think of in the morning when you wake up. This is your priority. What are you going to do about this project today? Where are you going? How far are you going to get? What's the next step? What's the next part of this project that you're going to try to complete? And you think, oh, well, is it really that important? Well, yes, it is. You can have, take for example, something that is pretty well known. Military services people, quite often police, fire, general services or people who work long periods of time in a single occupation. When it comes to retirement, no matter what age they are, if they're retiring at 40 or 60 or whatever, if they don't have a mission, and I keep coming back to the word mission, it's extremely important. We think of this project as a mission. Without a mission, we seem to see an unusually high examples of melancholy, sometimes into depression. And I'm not saying that these are necessarily automatic. I'm not saying that at all. However, there seems to be strong circumstantial evidence that suggests that a man and a woman, to some extent, not quite the same, I'm not speaking for women here, but a man without a mission, and I think I expressed it rather aggressively in my book as a death flower waiting to bloom. I don't want to put myself on the mortician's list. He can leave me off the list until it's a surprise at the end. And by not having a mission, not having a purpose in life, your raison d'etre, your reason to be, why do you exist? Why are you alive? Just to exist is not enough. Without a mission, that's all you have. And that doesn't lead to a happy life. Happiness is being able to do something for other people, to be able to achieve goals, to be able to tick the box and say, done it, that's one more, clicked off the list. Bucket list maybe, similar sort of thing, similar idea. Without that reason to be, without that reason to actually get up in the morning and go off and do something and work on the project that you're on, it becomes difficult to enjoy yourself. You say, oh no, I'm just going to travel around in a caravan, or I'm going to go to a retirement village, you're going to play bowls and we'll go to all the events and that sort of thing. I've seen a lot of people do that, and it really is a waiting room. Honestly, yeah. You can live in those places, not saying you shouldn't live there, nothing wrong with that, by all means, but without a mission, some clearly defined big project that you're working on, that you have got clearly written out, you know exactly what you're going, you've got all the steps listed out, you know it's going to take a certain number of months to achieve, and you're going to work on that until you accomplish that. And in the meantime, you've got a couple of others that are in the wings that are waiting their turn, or you might be trying to do them like I do, run half a dozen of them simultaneously, which I do, run them at the same time. So this is just one. This is just one project. I have many others. And perhaps it's because I've always in my life spent my time doing the things that I wanted to do. I didn't go and get a job where I was just expected to go off and do something I didn't want to do. And perhaps, I know this is, once again, correlation is not causation, but I suspect that part of the reason I've had such a long and happy life is because I've worked at the things that I loved to do at the time, the things that I wanted to do. I concentrated on, got myself good at doing whatever it was, enough to make a good living doing it. And I'm still doing it today. People quite often ask me to do little jobs for them. Just the other day I was doing one for someone, for a friend. Yes, I do jobs for people, sure. But it doesn't mean you have to be good with your hands. It doesn't mean you have to have a trade. You can take up something and become quite good at it. One example is I've heard used, and I know people who've done this, they retire, they're going to take up woodworking. Fine. You get all the little machines and you watch all the videos and you do some wood turning and that sort of thing, and then nothing. You lose interest. Stuff ends up on marketplace for sale because you're not using it anymore. It's just taking up space in the garage. And that's another failed project. That is not good for your happiness. Now, it might be different if you took up the woodworking with the goal of building an entire house full of furniture for a deserving family. That's sure. Now we're talking about a project. That's going to take you years, and you can concentrate on that. You can see all the steps, the things that you need to learn, where you have to go in order to achieve that goal. You're not only just doing something for yourself, but you've got a mission. You're a man on a mission to get this step achieved. That makes sense. That would work. Just traveling around, doing stuff, You may as well go into the ice cream shop and buy yourself an ice cream. You may as well sit in the chair and watch TV. Those things are fun, yes indeed, and I do them myself, but they are only part or in between the missions. And even when I'm away doing those things, I'm on a mission to get certain things achieved. They're the steps. Anyway, I'm not going to lecture about all that stuff. It's just something for you to think about. If you want to have a happy life, that's just one of the things. In the book, I think I write about 40 or 50 different things that matter a lot. And I've only just touched on the mission and doing things for other people. There are many other things, but I'm not suggesting that you necessarily have to go to Amazon and get a copy of the book or anything. If you instead, you can just subscribe so that YouTube, hopefully, tells you when the next of these videos is coming out. And I cover all this. I plan to cover all of these subjects over the next year or so. And they're all the ingredients that I've found over a lifetime have given me a very, very happy life. And there's no reason why you can't have a happy life. Sure, there are 4 critical things that make it a lot easier. If you own your own home, if you've got money in the bank, you've got friends, and you've got self-confidence. Yeah, sure. And I address all of those. However, that doesn't mean you can't have a happy life if you don't have them all. They just make it easier if you have at least some of them. But anyway, enough of that for the time being. Subscribe so that you know when they're coming out, when these videos are coming. If you hit the like or even the dislike button, apparently YouTube treats the dislike button as a comment as well, or whatever. Or you can place a comment on there and tell me where I'm wrong about something. I don't mind. That's fine too. And one thing about that is if you do place a comment or you do like or dislike the video, you're actually going to tell YouTube to show this to some other people. And maybe there's someone who, you might know all this stuff already, but there might be people out there, there are no doubt people out there who don't know this. And you would be helping to spread that to those people. So you'd be doing something for someone else as well. So that's a worthy goal. Anyway, maybe that's just a way of getting you to tick the box. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Maybe next week, probably next week, I'll produce another one of these. Haven't quite made up my mind exactly which of these. There's a lot of subjects to choose from. I'll be doing another one next week, and hopefully we'll see you there. Anyway, in the meantime, have a happy life. Cheers.